Hey, what's up? It's Dr. Taylor Crick, host of the AutoImmune Doc podcast. Today's study review is about PCOS, the most common cause of infertility. So if you haven't watched any other videos on this channel, I talk about study reviews pretty much exclusively and things that relate to topics that I talk about on the podcast or just topics that I think are relevant. And today's is a good one because it's pretty general, but it's lifestyle and environmental contributions to ovulatory dysfunction in women of PCOS. It's from 2020. It's in the journal BMC Endocrine Disorders. So, abstract. PCOS is the most common reason of anovulatory infertility. Environmental factor is one of the main causes of PCOS, but its contribution remains unknown. And PCOS has insulin resistance as an associative factor, as a causative factor, but there's all these other factors too, like so many, inflammatory or problematic, let's say mechanistic disease processes. It's very multifactorial. So they know that insulin resistance is a big one, but this one's talking about lifestyle and environmental contributions. Now, this is a fairly big study that's done with surveys. So I'm not a huge fan always of survey studies because people answer them and it's like, well, what did you eat this week? 3 servings of vegetables, 2 servings of fruit. I only had 1 piece of candy, and it's like sometimes the memory is skewed of reality. But when you do a large enough study, you can develop or recognize some of these trends. So some of these trends I think are fairly undeniable when we look at a large enough group of people. So I looked at 2,200 people. And let's just go down and look at some of these things. So it says PCOS is heterogeneous endocrinopathy. So it means it has multiple factors, multiple causes. Multiple causes is what that means, right? With an approximate prevalence of 5 to 20% in women. So that's pretty high, up to 20%. Environmental factors and genetic variants are both well accepted as main etiologic factors of PCOS or causative factors. It was shown that environmental endocrine disruptors could perturb the hormonal regulation of the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. It's also called the HPG axis, the hypothalamus pituitary gonadal. But yeah, so they're saying the environmental disruptors, toxins, disrupt hormones. Toxins disrupt hormones. It's a well-accepted thing in the literature. So let's just go down here. This is pretty easy. This is probably going to be a pretty short video if I just kind of stop talking, or rather keep talking on focus. So let's see. They had a meat-favorable diet. This is ovulatory or anovulatory. And they didn't have any ovulation issues. These ones had ovulation issues, and these ones didn't. So these are all both PCOS people, and these are the controls or the normals. So meat-favorable diet, this was NA. There was a correlation between the non-AO and the AO. Now that's another one that I think is a very, very hard to interpret answer because the quality of meat matters. If you're getting a lot of your meat, and if you eat a meat favorable diet, you probably eat a lot of burgers and fast food and tacos and chicken strips and junk like that. Whereas if you eat more of a plant-based diet, you probably just eat more of a real food diet, just generally. So I don't think that necessarily condemns meat, but some of these other things are pretty interesting. The exercise was pretty comparable. The insomnia was pretty comparable. The snoring was pretty drastic. So the controls, 11%. The next group, the PCOS non-OA, 18%. The next group, almost 30%. So a great correlation there. Smoking, same thing, 12%, and the normals went to 28%, went to 37%. So with each of these, it just gets like a little bit worse and a little bit worse. Alcohol consumption was about the same, really, for all of them. Tea drinking increased drastically. I don't know if they asked about coffee drinking, but tea drinking specifically, they must not have. Plastic tableware usage, that's really, really important. That's one question. It's a really easy question. It's a really basic question. But again, I think that it also separates demographics as well. If you have a certain median household income, you're probably not eating with plastic forks and plastic spoons and plastic knives. Um, but I don't know, but plastic is associated with endocrine disruption, BPA from plastics, phthalates from plastics, other things in plastics. Just there's a myriad of toxins in plastics, lead, all kinds of things in plastic. So a simple question that again gave a strong correlation um, to this disease process. Indoor decoration at home or workplace. Now, this is interesting, but over twice as many women with the worst PCOS than compared to normal. And air freshener usage, that the correlation wasn't as strong. It's pretty similar. Um, and this one is actually higher than this one. But what they're looking for is another simple question of, are you exposed to a lot of environmental toxins that are airborne? And that's an easy question. Now, I bet that question is not uh, is not a good indication of really their toxic exposure. But that's what they're trying to pick, and what they're trying to kind of nail down is there a correlation between toxic exposure and disease prevalence? And then this one's interesting: cooking oil fume contact. So I don't know why, the 53% of these people are exposed to cooking oil fumes, where only 43 and 33% are exposed here. Did they cook less? Maybe. I mean, I doubt that the controls like eat out more often. Certainly. So I don't really know the association there, but it is strong. And I think that the point of this isn't to say that, oh, cooking oil is going to cause PCOS, but it's looking at all these different factors. And again, a concept that I talk about a lot on the podcast is that a lot of different things fill the bucket. It might be cooking oil fumes for you. It might be air fresheners for you. It might be plastics for you. You might lead a perfectly clean, healthy lifestyle, and your building that you live in might have lead pipes or something like that you don't even see. But the toxic exposures increase the risk with this. And that's pretty much it for the summary of this paper.